You Are Mine by Max Lucado. Illustrated by Sergio Martinez. Voices by Brennen.
No.
Punchinello lived in Wemixville. Just like all the other Wemix, he was made of wood. And just like the other Wemix, he was carved by Eli, the Wemix maker. And just like the other Wemix, he sometimes did silly things. Like the time he began collecting boxes and balls. Things started getting crazy when a Wemix named Tuck bought a new box. Others had boxes, but Tuck's box was new. Tuck loved his new box. He thought it was the best box in the village. It was brightly colored, and he was proud of it. Too proud, perhaps. He strutted up and down the street showing off his new box. "Have you seen my new box?" he would ask the Wemix he passed on the street. "Would you like to touch my new box?" Tuck marched right up to Punchinello. "Don't you wish you had a new box?" he teased. Punchinello thought Tuck's box was beautiful, and he began to wish for a box of his own. Tuck kept showing off his box, thinking he was better than the other Wemix. Nip, another Wemix, disagreed. "My box is just as good as Tuck's," he said, as he showed off his new box to the Wemix on the other side of the street. Nip's box was not new, but it was a bit bigger and a bit brighter, and a bit more than Tuck could take. Tuck got very quiet and gave Nip a mad look. Then he had an idea. He stepped into a store and bought a ball. Now he had more things than Nip. He had a box and a ball. Nip frowned at Tuck's ball. Nip could do better than that, he thought. He bought 2 more balls. With a smile on his face, 2 balls and a box in his hand, he marched over to Tuck and smirked. "Now I have more than you." Before he knew it, Tuck was in the store buying another box. Then Nip ran to buy another ball. Then Tuck bought a box, and then Nip bought a ball. Ball, box, Tuck, Nip, Tuck. On and on it went. Someone could have stopped the whole mess right there. In fact, that's what the mayor tried to do. "You two are being silly," he said to Nip and Tuck. "Who cares who has the most toys?" "You're just jealous," they replied, "because you don't have any." "Jealous of you? Ha!" But within a few moments, the mayor was in the store, buying an armful of boxes and balls. Other Wemix began to join in. The butcher, the baker, the cabinet maker, the doctor from up the street, and the dentist from down the street. Before long, every Wemix wanted to be the one with most boxes and balls. Some boxes were big and some were bright. Some balls were heavy and some were light. Tall people carried them, small people carried them, everybody carried them, and everybody thought the same. Good Wemix have a lot, not so good Wemix have little. When a Wemix walked down the center of Wemixville with a stack of balls and the boxes higher than his head, people stood and stopped. "Now that was a good Wemix," they would say. But when a Wemix passed by with only 1 ball or 1 box, the others would shake their heads and maybe even whisper, "Poor Wemix, poor Wemix." Of course, Punchinello didn't want to be called a poor Wemix, so he decided to get as many boxes and balls as he could. He searched through his closet and found 1 little ball. He dug into his pocket and found enough money for a box. "I know what I'll do," he declared. "I'll sell my boxes to get more money to buy more boxes and balls." So he did. He bought a blue and green box with clouds painted on the sides, but still he wanted more. "I'll work nights to get extra money," he told himself. So he did. He bought a ball, and since he was working nights, he didn't need his bed, so he decided, "I'll sell my bed." And he did just that, and bought 2 more balls. Soon Punchinello had an armful, but other Wemix had more. Some of them had so many boxes and balls, they actually had trouble walking. "It's hard keeping up with all my boxes and balls," they would say, acting like they were complaining, but really they were bragging. Punchinello wanted to be like these Wemix, so he sold more stuff, and he worked more hours. His eyes were tired from not getting any sleep. His arms were tired from carrying toys. He couldn't remember when he last sat down to rest, and worst of all, his friends couldn't remember the last time he came to play. "We haven't seen you in a long time," his friend Lucia said to him one day. "Why don't you come and play again?" his buddy Slint. Not everyone cared about the boxes and balls. Punchinello's friends didn't, but Punchinello cared more about having more boxes and balls than he cared about having friends. "I got work to do," he told them. And his friends would sigh. Punchinello didn't care. He only cared what other box and ball people thought. And no matter what he did, he couldn't buy enough things to get their attention. Finally, he had an idea. "I will sell my house." "That's crazy," cried Lucia.
Where will you live?
asked Splint. Punchinello didn't know, but he didn't care. All he could think about was the boxes and balls he would have with all that money. So he sold his house. He bought boxes and boxes and boxes and balls and more balls. He carried so many toys he couldn't even see where he was going. His stack went way above his head, but he didn't mind. So what if his arms ached? So what if he kept walking into walls? So what if he had no friends? He had boxes and balls. And when he passed Remix, they would turn and say, "Wow, you must be a good woman." Punchinello heard them. He couldn't see them, but he heard them, and he thought, "I am a good woman." But then somebody changed the rules. It was the mayor's wife. She was very proud of her boxes and balls. She not only had a lot of them, but she also had special kinds of them. She would buy them at the fanciest stores with funny names and leave the names on the boxes so everyone would see them. She wanted to be the best remake. One day she had an idea. Not only will I have the most, but I will go the highest. So she climbed on top of one of her boxes and balls. "Look at me, everybody." Immediately, all of the box and ball people tried to outdo her. One climbed on a mountain, one climbed on a balcony, the other climbed onto a roof. It was the mayor who spotted the mountain, however. Behind the village of the Remixville was Remix Pete. "I'm going to the top of the mountain," he shouted, hoping to get there first. The race was on to see which Remix would have the most and climb the highest. Remix loaded with boxes and balls and began running up the mountain. It was a crazy, crazy race. Since the wooden people couldn't see where they were going, they bumped into each other. Since they were exhausted, they fell over their own feet. Since the trail was narrow, some went down the side of it. But they kept going. Bringing up the rear was Punchinello. He was having a hard climb, harder than the rest. After all, he's only been a good remix for a short time. He wasn't used to carrying so many boxes and balls, but he was determined. He kept putting one little foot ahead of the other, but since he couldn't see, he didn't know that he was going off the side of the trail. And since he couldn't see, he didn't know that he had left the trail. All he knew was that all of a sudden, he was alone. "I must be ahead of everybody else," he thought to himself, and so he kept climbing up and up. "I must be very near the top. I am a very good remake. I would be the highest with the most." About that time, Punchinello's foot caught the edge of something. He tried to keep his balance. His toys swayed to the right and then to the left. He leaned back and then forward, but he couldn't stop. He was going to fall. And he didn't know, however, that he had walked up to the trail to Eli's house. He tripped on the step of the porch and tumbled through the front door of Eli's workshop. When Punchinello realized where he was embarrassed. For a long time he stayed face down on the floor, surrounded by his boxes and balls. One of the balls rolled across the floor and stopped at Eli's workbench. And when the woodcarver turned around, "Punchinello." Eli's voice was calm and deep and kind. And the Wemmick still didn't move. He could feel his face turning red. "Looks like you've been carrying a big load." The weary Wemmick climbed to his knees, but kept his head low. "These are my boxes and balls," he said gently. "Do you play with these boxes and balls?" asked Eli. Punchinello shook his head. "Do you like these boxes and balls?" "I like the way they make me feel." "How do they make you feel?" "Important." Punchinello answered, still with a small voice. Eli observed. "So you've been acting like the other remix. You've been thinking that the more you have, the better you are, and the happier you'll be." "I suppose so." "Come here, Punchinello. I want to show you something." Punchinello felt a big hand on his shoulders. "Do you know how much your boxes and balls cost you?" "My books, my bed, my money, and my house." "My little friend, they cost you much more than that." Punchinello was trying to remember what else he had sold, when Eli continued. "They cost you happiness. You haven't been happy, have you?" Punchinello paused. "No." "They cost your friends, and most of all, they cost you trust. You didn't trust me to make you happy. You trusted those boxes and balls." Punchinello looked at the pile of toys. All of a sudden, they didn't seem so valuable. "I kinda messed up." "That's okay," Eli replied. "You're still special." Punchinello ducked his head and smiled. "You're special not because of what you've done. You're special because of who you are. You are mine. I love you. Don't forget that, little friend." "I won't," Punchinello smiled. Then he paused and asked, "Eli? Eli?" "Yes." What should I do with these boxes and balls? Perhaps you should give them to somebody who really needs them. Punchinello turned to leave, but stopped again. Eli? Yes. I don't have a place to sleep. Eli smiled and offered, Would you like to sleep here tonight? I sure would. I'm very tired. And so that night, Punchinello slept on a bed of wood shavings. He slept well. It felt good to be in the house of his baker. The end.